Hello, Advertising 318J. My name is Heather LeFevre, and I am filming today from Amsterdam, where I work at Strawberry Frog. I'm the head of planning, and I know very, very well what you're going through. I was a student in 318J at one point, and then I decided to do the master's program in advertising, and I became Dr. Murphy's TA for a year. So I'm very familiar with these projects and grading these projects, and I know all the hard work that you put into them. So I'm very excited to be judging project number 2 today. What I wanted to share with you is when I read the 9 best projects, is that the thing that stood out to me the most was that there was sort of a difficulty in identifying an insight. And what really is an insight? Well, to me it's something that when you look at it and somebody presents sort of an observation in an interesting way, it makes you say aha, and like, wow, I never thought of that before. It's not just something that's obvious. And I really love this quote. It's something that I keep up in my office, and it says, "The task is not so much to see what no one else has seen, but to think what no one else has thought about that which everybody sees." And this guy, Arthur Schopenhauer, said that. So when I was reading through the different projects, I felt a lot of them were more obvious things. And so I wanted to give you an example from my experience of when I felt like I found an insight that led to interesting advertising themes. So when I worked on Burger King for Crispin, we had to do a new Whopper campaign a year before we'd done Whopper Freakout. So the brief was sort of, how do we top Whopper Freakout? And at the time I was having the opportunity to teach some students at Miami Ad School, and so I gave them that brief, like come up with something new about the Whopper. And the interesting thing that they came back with was they were trying to do some man on the street interviews and talk to people, and they said, we've had a really hard time finding people who've eaten a Whopper. And so from my perspective, we've seen all this data that the Whopper is America's best loved burger. And you work on something for a year and you just think that everybody's had one. And so it was really interesting to me to think, wow, there's people out there who've never even eaten a Whopper before. I wonder how many there are. So I got Burger King to do a quick survey, and they found out it was 16%. And when you sort of do some back of the napkin math, that times 300 million Americans, that was 42 million people who'd never had a Whopper. So into the brief, we put a thought starter that said, there's 42 million Whopper virgins in America, what should we do with them? And the creatives then took that and said, that is interesting. What is this idea of a Whopper virgin? And then they, if you've seen the campaign, went to all these different places around the world, Romania and Thailand, and actually met with people and had them do a really pure taste test. People who had never had burgers before, and they compared the Whopper versus the Big Mac and saw what they thought. So that's just to give you sort of a background on how an insight can lead to advertising. So thinking of all those things and reading through the insights that you had and the advertising themes, some of them felt very much like if this became an ad, if this were a TV spot, for example, it would feel very expected and would not be that surprising. So the person that won is the person who I thought did have an insight. So that was Kenzie Thompson. Kenzie, I thought it was interesting how you saw the potential of nostalgia and having Whataburger being a connection to where you're from. So Whataburger being a very Texas brand and people growing up with it and being able to capitalize on that. So thank you so much for letting me judge your papers. And Kenzie, I hope you enjoy your lunch with Dr. Murphy in the faculty lounge. Goodbye, guys.